When we first stepped into the Jewish cemetery in Warsaw, right at the edge of what used to be the ghetto, it hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. This place, it's so heavy, so final, like the end of everything. Gray stretching out endlessly, it was huge, stones crumbling under the weight of time, and I thought, how can this be where our story begins? A cemetery, a place that we associate with death, with loss, with the last breath. It felt like a shock to my soul, like the trip was starting in the darkest corner of history. So many lived and died here in the Warsaw Ghetto, and standing there, their death was present, but so was their presence. As I looked closer, I started to see it. This wasn't just a graveyard, it was a testament to life. Life before the ghetto in Warsaw, before the horrors, was alive with Jewish souls, with people, religious Jews, seculars, doctors, carpenters, writers, bakers, businessmen, beggars. They all lived here, they laughed here, they prayed here. Their lives weren't erased. They're still here, in the cracks of these stones, in the stories whispered between the trees. And that gave me hope. Not the kind of hope that erases the pain, but the kind that says life, stubborn and beautiful, fought to exist even here. Our tour guide Amir told us about a boy named Moishe, the last Jewish child in the Warsaw Ghetto. It was during the last Seder Pesach in a bunker, just one family left, hiding in the shadows of death. Moishe sang the Manishtana, those 4 questions kids ask every year. Why is this night different from all the other nights? But his question went deeper. He looked at his father and said, Tate, will you be alive next year to answer me? Will I be alive to ask? Will there be any Jews left in the world? Listening to Emil tell the story, I felt this chill, this fear. Like, could that happen again? Could we lose everything all over again? But then I remembered what Moishe's father said. Somewhere, somehow, there will always be a Moishe. God promised us that. I don't know if his father was right. I want to believe it, but the fears linger. Standing in that cemetery surrounded by death, I realized our story doesn't end here. It starts here, because their lives, their courage, their questions, they're still with us. And maybe that's the inspiration. Not that the pain is gone, but that we're still here, still asking, still hoping, and still remembering.
We are the shoes. We are the last witnesses. We are the shoes from grandchildren and grandfathers, from Prague, Paris, and Amsterdam. And because we are only made of fabric and leather, and not of blood and flesh, each one of us avoided the hellfire.
When we got to Auschwitz on the second day, I wasn't prepared for how it would feel. It was like stepping into a nightmare that someone built with a ruler and a blueprint. How could minds so crooked, so twisted, create a hell with such straight lines? Everything here looks handmade and orderly, almost clinically orderly, like someone cared about every precise detail. But nothing about it makes sense. How do you build a place that seems so in place, yet everyone who was brought here was so utterly misplaced? They were ripped from their homes, their families, their possessions, and their dignity. Everything that life meant to them before they were brought there no longer meant anything. The barbed wires still stood, the barracks stayed fully intact, as if they're still watching us to this day. I kept asking myself questions that had no answers, questions that echoed in my head as I was walking around Auschwitz. What kind of mind designs gas chambers knowing they'll swallow thousands of lives in minutes? How do you even begin to grasp the numbers? The millions who walked through those gates. The endless rows of faces, stories, families, dreams, all erased in one place. And the crematoriums. What about the workers who were forced to feed the fires with their own people? Did they feel anything? Or were they just as broken, just as lost? How do you live with something like that in a place that smells of death and despair? It's not the physical place that haunted me. It's the idea behind it, the existence of it. What does it mean to be a human in a place like this, where humanity was completely stripped away? Were we still human when we were numbered, starved, experimented on, or were we something else? And what about now, standing here, decades later? Am I supposed to find meaning in this? Or is it all made for us to not understand? How can a place built to erase life force us to question what life even is?
Walking into Birkenau, I hesitated. We stood on those tracks right in front of the gates where the Nazis decided who would die right then and who would live a little longer. You could just feel the heaviness around you and feel the fear of those same millions who faced death. I was scared to walk there, to walk from the train platforms towards the crematoriums, knowing my grandma, Savta Helen, and her family stepped off those trains right there in that very place. This is where they were torn apart. My Savta Helen was 22 when she arrived at Auschwitz, the oldest of 7 sisters. Her parents and 3 younger sisters were sent straight to the crematoriums, but Helen and her remaining sisters were sent to the line of the living and kept in Block 18. She survived because she was strong, because she could endure the forced labor, the starvation, the cruelty. Her youngest sister was so sick, barely hanging on, but somehow Helen kept her alive. The sisters would take turns sharing their crust just to keep her going, and they did it. All those sisters, even the sickest one, survived. They wandered as war refugees until they finally made it to Israel. And standing there on those tracks, I felt so small and afraid. But then I thought about my Savta and how she faced this place, this horror, and still found a way to be strong and to save her sisters, but most importantly, to survive. If she could do that, then I could do this, and I could take these steps. I could walk through Birkenau, and we have to live up to them, to their courage. We walked around as a strong group, wrapping the Israeli flag around our shoulders, walking where they walked. And it wasn't just about remembering the pain they went through. It was about honoring their strength, the strength of our people. And the least we can do is carry that pride, that resilience, and never let it fade.
After the ceremony in Birkenau, I felt this pride inside of me, like nothing I've ever known. We stood there in that place of unimaginable horror, honoring our people, and when we walked out draped with Israeli flags, it was overwhelming. Pride in our traditions, our strength to survive the worst and to rebuild after everything was taken. Proud to be part of the Jewish state, a place that protects us from horrors like those done here. Nothing felt better than stepping out of that camp carrying that feeling of pride in who we are and where we come from.
When we walked into the Rima synagogue in Krakow, I didn't expect it to feel so alive. I thought this place was abandoned for at least 100 years. It's this tiny, humble place in Krakow, but the moment we stepped inside, it was like stepping into the present moment. It felt like the walls were holding centuries of prayers. We sat on these wooden benches, the same ones where a scholar sat 100 years ago, maybe more, praying, singing, learning. I could almost hear their voices, their words echoing through time. Some of the boys in our group put on tefillin right there and started saying the Shema, the same prayer our people have said for thousands of years. And suddenly, our delegation, we weren't just a group anymore. We were a community, bound by something so much bigger than us. Then we went out back to the small cemetery behind the synagogue, where these great rabbis are buried. Their graves are worn, but they still felt sacred. Amir, our guide, told us this story that gave me chills. There was a girl in high school who came here years ago and left a letter on one of the rabbis' graves, right there among this mountain of other notes piled high. She wrote about wanting to marry a man from her kibbutz. By some miracle, a few years later, her grandfather visited the same grave and decided he wanted to read a letter and happened to pick one up. It turned out he ended up picking up her letter out of all of them. Years later at her wedding, he told her he'd found her letter, proof that her prayer was answered and her wish came true. Because she didn't just get married to anyone. She married the man she specifically mentioned in her letter, just as she asked. It's like the rabbi or something greater was listening. When Amir finished, we all just stood there, silent, staring at that pile of letters. And then, one by one, we started writing. Little notes, scraps of paper, prayers, wishes, things we didn't even know we needed to say. I wrote mine, my hands shaking, and placed it there, among the others. It felt like I was a part of something eternal, like my words were joining all these voices from before, all these hopes. This place, this tiny synagogue, this cemetery, it's not just about the past, it's about us, now, carrying it forward. I left that day feeling lighter, like I'd found a piece of home I didn't know I was missing.
When we stood at the Umschlagplatz in Krakow, I couldn't fully comprehend what this place used to be. It's just a square with huge chairs right in the middle of the city, a place that should have been all about life. People coming and going, catching trains, and moving freely. It was supposed to symbolize freedom, convenience, the pulse of a city. But during the Holocaust, it became something else entirely. This was where they gathered thousands of Jews and tore them from their homes, their lives, their everything. Mothers, fathers, children, grandparents even. They were packed into transports here and sent directly to death camps like Auschwitz to be murdered. Like their lives meant absolutely nothing. No freedom, no hope, just gone. Looking around, it's so empty now. There is nothing here. There's no trace of them, no echo of their voices, or any stories. I kept thinking, where are they now? Who were they? The woman who sold the flowers, the boy who dreamed of becoming a doctor, the rabbi who prayed until the end. What were their names? What stories could they have told if they'd lived? They were erased, like this place swallowed them whole and left absolutely nothing behind. And that scares me, because what if we've forgotten them? What if we've missed someone, a single soul, and their story is lost forever? I stood there trying to picture their faces, their fear, their last moments in this square. Are we sure we didn't forget anyone? Are we sure we're holding every single one of them in our hearts? I don't know. I want to believe we haven't, that we're keeping their memory alive. But standing in that empty place felt so fragile. Like if we don't speak their names, if we don't tell their stories, they'll slip away forever. The Umschlagplatz, isn't just a reminder of what was taken, it's a place to make sure no one is left behind.
When we first walked into the Birkenau woods, we stepped from kind of a side path into the forest. We heard some woods cracking from the step we took. The paths were narrow, the trees so gentle, and you could see the soft breeze into the top of the trees. It was slowly getting darker and colder as we entered more into the forest. I didn't know what to expect or what we will meet there. When we arrived at a place with light blue fences surrounded small pieces of land, which were murder pits made by the Nazis, those fences were filled with rows of children, some teddy bears, and many, many candles. It's not just woods, it's a place where the Nazis killed thousands, so many of them children, in ways that I can't even make sense. It's so hard to say it out loud. And Amir told us what happened here with words and with a song. Men, women, and children from the eternal ghetto were taken into these pits. Thousands and thousands were shot and brutally murdered. There was this one day when they killed 6,000 people, including 800 children from an orphanage. They used guns, hand grenades, but just throwing them into the crowds. And the little one, the babies who weren't killed by the blast, they were grabbed by the ankles, the tiny little children, and swung against the rocks, over and over till they were gone. And I kept picturing the faces, their tiny hands reaching out, and I can't stop crying when I think about it. How could anyone do that? How could a person, a human being, look at a child so small, so scared, and do something so cruel? These woods, they should have been for playing, for laughing, for children to run through the grass, not for this, not for screams and blood and pits filled with bodies. I keep asking myself, how does a heart turn so cold? How do you walk away from those children and live with yourself? I don't understand. I don't think I ever will. Standing there, it's like the ground is crying. I can almost hear those children, their voices, their fear, trapped in these trees. Those 800 kids, they deserve so much better. They deserve to grow up, to be healed, to be loved. Instead, they were torn apart. Here in this quiet forest, it breaks me. It makes me want to scream, to beg the world to remember them. Because if we let this place to say silence, then they were letting the horror win. And I can't and I won't let that happen. Their lives, their story, they have to mean something.
Despite of its connection to the Holocaust, when visiting the Chachmei Lublin Yeshiva, it felt like we took a breath of fresh air from the places that would remind us of the horrific acts of the Nazis. This place was once a beacon of Jewish learning, a yeshiva founded in 1930, filled with scholars and holy books, alive with simcha and Torah. But when the Nazis took Lublin during the war, they gutted it out of everything that made it once special. They stripped the interior, tore out everything sacred, and burned the yeshiva's mesmerizing library straight to the ground. The yeshiva quickly became the headquarters for the German military police, a place of oppression instead of wisdom. But standing there, in that same yeshiva, we did something the Nazis could have never imagined. We danced and we sang. Our voices filled the halls and our feet stomped on the floors, and our hearts were so full. This is our tradition, this is our legacy, and this is our people. The Jewish people, we were not meant to be erased, eliminated. Our books will not be burned, and our voices will not be silenced. We're still here, resilient, building ourselves up again, proving to the whole world that no one will ever hold us back. We're still alive, still singing, still dancing. Every note, every step, we were reclaiming this place, making it ours again. I don't know how to explain it, but in that moment, I felt unstoppable. We were living life to the fullest, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who came before us, everyone who couldn't be here. It's proof that our joy and our strength will always rise again, and that's what I'll carry with me forever.
Majdanek. Majdanek was one of the most horrific Nazi concentration and extermination camps during the Holocaust. Unlike remote camps hidden deep in the forest, Majdanek was built on the outskirts of Lublin. Between 1941 and 1944, more than 150,000 were imprisoned in Majdanek: Jews, Poles, Soviets, and others. Over 60,000 Jews were murdered there. The rest forced labor, starvation, diseases, and constant terror. It's hard to express or to even describe what we felt when we were there. When we were inside the barracks, we could almost touch the thousands of shoes, the remains of tens of thousands of those who were cremated on site. There weren't many that survived, and those who did carried with them their horrific memories. My great-grandma was one of those. Savta Felka was born and raised in a small village called Kalisz. With the uprising of the war, her whole family was taken to Ghetto Warszawa. After a few years in the ghetto, they were all separated. Some were taken to Auschwitz, others to Treblinka, and my Savta Felka and her first husband were taken to Majdanek. The moment they arrived, he helped her get off the train, but was shot right there beside her by the Nazis. As a very articulate person, a pharmacist in her pre-war profession, everyone trusted her in the camp. She was in charge of separating the bread piece by piece so everyone gets the same amount. She would take out lice and other basic needs that everyone trusted her with. She was a true hero, and her survival is a true miracle. Savta Felka was taken to the gas chamber. She was already inside, knowing exactly what was about to happen. But her case was one of a kind. The gas ran out, and she managed to survive. She was returned to work in the camp till the end of the war. Majdanek was and still is a haunting reminder of what happens when humanity is forgotten. We will not forget, and we must continue to cherish and pass on our ancestors' stories.
Standing in Majdanek during the ceremony, I couldn't help thinking about my great-grandfather, Yecheskel. We were there, all of us gathered in this place that felt so heavy, so wrong, with the ashes of so many lingering in the air. The prayers, the candles, the silence. But all I could feel was him, my great-grandfather. He did everything to save his children, my grandfather and his sister. He hid them and risked everything for them on the border of Switzerland and France in a small orphanage, hoping they'd make it. And they did, but he didn't. The Nazis took him here to Majdanek, and he never left. I kept looking at the barracks, the fences, trying to imagine him here. What did he feel? What did he see? Knowing his children were safe, but he was trapped in this place of death. Did he hold on to hope, or was it just all fear? I don't know. I'll never know. But I think the question that I keep asking myself is, does it matter if we know? Do we know is what they went through? They went through torture, they went through hell. I think that's what matters, because we never really know what they felt. During the ceremony, we said El Malei Rachamim, and I wanted to believe his soul to hear it, that somehow our voices reached to him. But standing there where he died, I felt so small, like I was carrying his pain, his sacrifice, and I didn't know how to hold on to it. He gave everything for his family, for us, and I'm here because of him. That's what I kept thinking. His courage, his love. It's why I'm here today. But it hurts, knowing he never saw his children growing up, never saw the life he fought for, Israel. My dad took him there, but it didn't take his story. I'll carry it, always, so generations never forget what so few live to tell.
Walking through what's left of the Kraków ghetto, I felt the city itself was whispering something we could barely hear. Most of it's gone, replaced by modern streets, buildings, life moving on. But there are these small reminders, fragile pieces of the past. A fragment of the wall on Lvovska Street, shaped like tombstones, still stands, as if it's guarding the memory of the 15,000 Jews who were trapped here. A neighborhood holding stories of courage in a place of despair. These remnants, they are so small compared to the horror they represent, but they demanded we listen, that we remember. Shmuel Blumenfeld, a boy from Kraków, born in 1926, lived through this nightmare with his family of 7. His family moved to Auschwitz, but when the Nazis came, his father was murdered in Plaszow concentration camp, and Shmuel escaped to the Kraków ghetto. In 1943, when the ghetto was liquidated, he was deported to Auschwitz. Somehow he survived, but his family was gone. He later helped others reach Israel through the Birkenau movement. He even guarded Reichman during the trial of the century, showing him the number on his arm, saying, "I was in Auschwitz for 2 years and I survived." His story is a testament to resilience, to refusing to let the Nazis erase him. Being in the ghetto, we kept thinking about those like Shmuel, about how they walked these streets, saw these walls, and carried their pain. This ghetto held 15,000 Jews in a space meant for 3,000. Most were sent to Belzec, Majdanek, or Auschwitz. We couldn't shake the weight of this loss. Like the ghetto, most of the Jewish history from this place has been erased. But today, we are here to remember.
This silence is the loudest scream that comes from Treblinka. 6 gas chambers running for only 16 months, between 700,000 and 900,000 people murdered, all in less than a quarter of a square kilometer. As soon as you stepped off the train, you had 2, maybe 3 hours to live. That's the story of Treblinka. Jews were deported here, mainly from Poland, but also from Czechoslovakia, Greece, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Germany, Austria, France, and the Soviet Union. The Nazis didn't just want to kill them, they wanted to erase them. When the camp was destroyed in 1943, they thought it wiped out every trace. Today, all that's left are stones, 17,000 quarry stones, like gravestones outlining the camp, whispering the name of the communities lost. Visiting Treblinka was especially meaningful for me because of my family's connection to the Nazi death camps, leaving my great-grandparents as the only survivors. They were born in Brody, a small town in western Ukraine where Jewish life thrived before the war. When the Nazis came, their families, parents, siblings, cousins, were taken to death camps. But my great-grandparents, they survived, building a home in Israel. Standing here, where so many were silenced, I thought of them, of their strength. The majority of my family was murdered in death camps. But to see Treblinka now, a place of death, and to stand here as a Jew, alive, carrying their story. That's our real victory. It's not just about remembering the horrors. It's about honoring the lives that refused to be erased. The ones who carried on, like my great-grandparents.
קולות בלבב בנימה, נפש יהודי הומיה, ולפתי מזרח קדימה, עין לציון צופיה. עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים.
We are here, and that's the loudest answer to Treblinka's silence.
After this difficult week, visiting the ghettos, the camps, seeing the gas chambers and the crematoriums, and hearing so many horrific stories, I felt heavy, like my heart was carrying so much pain. Places like Auschwitz, Treblinka, the Kraków ghetto, they leave you numb in a sense because it's so hard to grasp the history of these places. But on Shabbat, we came together for something completely different. We gathered to pray, to sing, to share a festive Shabbat dinner, and it was like a light breaking through. In a place where Jews were once forbidden to live freely, to pray, to be themselves, here we were, raising our voices in prayer, unafraid and unashamed. There was something so powerful about that moment. We stood together singing, then reciting the Kiddush, and it felt like we came full circle. In the very place where our ancestors were silenced, we were singing Shalom Aleichem, our voices filling the room. Where they were stripped of their dignity, we set a table with challah, wine, and warmth, celebrating life. I kept thinking, this is what they couldn't take from us. This is our tradition, our spirit thriving again, proudly. To pray in a place where Jews weren't allowed to do what they wanted, it was like saying we're still here and we're not going anywhere. I don't know how to describe it, but that Shabbat felt holier in a way I've never felt before. It wasn't just about us in that room. It was about our same traditions that we were being kept even when it seemed impossible. They were honoring them not just with words, but with joy and with life. That dinner, those prayers, they were our way of reclaiming what was almost lost. And being there, I felt stronger and prouder, like we'd carried our light forward together.
And we need to make this space like a safe space for all of us to talk, to share, to reflect.
When we sat down for our reflection sessions each evening, it was like opening a window to everyone's heart. After days filled with heavy places, cemeteries, camps, ghettos, we'd gather in a circle, just us, and share what we were all carrying. Everyone had something so personal to say, something unique, tied to their own story, their own family. But at the same time, I realized we were all on this journey together. It didn't matter where we came from, Israel, the States, China, Europe, South Africa. We were feeling the same things, the grief, the pride, the questions that don't have answers. It was like we were reliving the stories of our ancestors, not just hearing them, but feeling their weight together. Those evenings, they made us a family, bound by this shared experience.
Always think about like one day I'll be there and how it'll feel, and it wasn't what I expected.
it's something that I've heard also throughout the days, like people are like unsure about how to deal with that, and I think that everyone's going to deal with it on their own way, and that's okay.
So it's like little things, and I think that's how it's going to be even when we get back home. Like day to day, like remembering what we did here, what we saw.
Also, I haven't been able to really process anything for the past few days, and it's really validating to hear what everyone's saying, because somebody will speak and, oh, that's what I wanted to say. It was very, very, I don't know, very life-changing.
By the time we got to our Shabbat reflections the day before heading home, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Sitting there sharing our final thoughts, I realized how privileged I was to be on this trip with such an incredible group. We'd created the safe, warm space where no one had to hold back, where every tear, every story was held with care. It was amazing to think that we came from all over the world, each with our own lives, yet we'd built something so strong together. Those sessions, they weren't just about processing the pain or the pride, they were about becoming part of something bigger, a community, carrying our people's history forward. I'm so grateful for that time and for every person in our group. It was the end of our trip in Poland and the beginning of our journey as a delegation, carrying the messages and the memories to the next generation.
Hey guys, action. 3 and action. Hey guys, it's your boy Neros169. Welcome back to my vlog. It's been a long day. It's our first day in Poland. Hey guys, it's your boy Neros169. We're back in TNT. Tamir, near, together. That looks like together.
TNT, I'm dynamite. TNT, let me watch you fight. TNT, I don't know the words.
We make them up because we're gonna change the world. Nir, Tamir, together
And
forever.
now we're going to interview our next interviewee.
Okay.
Her name is Maya. She's from Texas. And she's very knowledgeable at the geography and academic sites in Texas. Okay?
Yes. So before we start, the question that's been reoccurring the whole week, a big talk about Sephora. What are you gonna buy in Sephora this week?
Probably a lip gloss.
What is your take on the sandwiches? Well, what was your favorite sandwich so far?
Okay, so yesterday we had a really bomb cream cheese, cucumber, and lettuce sandwich that I had 2 of.
Well, we'll get back to you soon, after the break.
עכשיו חדש, תיק ב10 שקל.
Hey guys, well, welcome back to TNT.
It is currently 6:20 a.m.
But who's asking?